Lobster Magnet. Lobster's a 10 I told you grab it.
Hey guys, before we move on to your regularly scheduled video blog review content, just a quick special announcement. Because everything is a contest and life is nothing but a giant tournament arc, I've decided to steal Exclamation Point's gimmick of staging an imaginary subscriber tournament battle for YouTube supremacy. That's right, I'm coming for you, Exclamation Point. We shall meet in the fields of Valhalla, weapons in hand as we face off in a video essay showdown to once and for all determine who is the champion, who shall walk away from the fields of battle in unending internet glory. So how about you? Give me everything you... Oh god. Oh god, Jesus Christ. He is over 60,000 subscribers. Crap. Okay, there's no way I'm ever going to compete with that. Okay, so Mr. Punctuation Face is a bit out of my league, but that doesn't mean I can't start from the bottom, because every underdog's gotta start somewhere. And stick around, folks, because the first match is gonna be a good one. My first opponent is the YouTube channel for a company I used to work for. They only have around 2,700 subs, but this fight is personal, because I wasted a year and a half of my life being yelled at by the CEO who constantly told me how my content wasn't up to his company's illustrious standards, which mostly consisted of this.
Jarek Media, Digital Lab, Studies, Series Language Protocols. Juan.
Yes, that's right. That's how Mr. Wall Street thinks he can win the internet. It's been my dream to crush him with my YouTube channel and to do what they couldn't accomplish over the past 2 years. So hit that subscriber count. Let's show them who's got the real eye of the tiger. This is my first opponent on the YouTube ladder of success. This is the Spider Rico fight I need to win as I climb up the ladder towards turning this into a full-time career. So if you don't want to let that douchebag Wall Street millionaire win, then hit that subscribe button, and as soon as we win this fight, I'll let you guys know who the next opponent is. Now back to your regularly scheduled video blog review content. Welcome to Lobster Magnet's Review, the channel review. I'm here with my buddy Goro Gregoro.
What's up?
Zabul.
Evening, folks.
You still want to be Dan the Garbage Man?
For now, it works for me.
Okay, and Dan the Garbage Man. And we are here, yes, your one and only favorite Rick show after all the, big networks have already done their detailed breakdowns and analysis. We are the little guys that are struggling. And, for all the 100 people who may see this, thank you for holding out to hear our little take on, the Dan Harmon phenomenon of fucking Rick's... What was the episode called? It was Rick's... Relaxation?
Yeah.
Relaxation. So, guys, what do you think of Toxic Rick?
Jesus Christ.
He's pretty toxic.
That was fantastic.
It was another strong episode. It was another kind of by Rick and Morty standards, low stakes one, but another great exploration of a fun sci-fi concept. And oh my god, don't we all just want to remove our toxic selves?
I don't know. I think the entire point was again, this entire fucking series just feels like Dan Harmon got drunk and angry.
That is the central.
Him just yelling about I can just hear him in the fucking writer's room screaming about the fact. He's no, it's not okay. It's not okay. If I wanted to fucking take drugs and make myself feel better, I'd fucking do that. But no.
Just
spend
that.
20 minutes. Mine.
Isn't this just the equivalent of going to a spa though? It's
a high concept.
What does it have to do with drugs?
But the entire fucking toxicity removal was okay, so fine. The big overarching concept go to a spa, get your toxins removed, bloody fucking blah. But I mean, if you look at it, it was still an artificial process that literally just drew out all of your problems and emotions and kept you from actually confronting all of the shit that's actually wrong with you and working through it in a healthy, productive manner. And instead just sucking it out and cramming it somewhere else.
Oh my god, that kind of reminds me of Homestuck, actually, Scott. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Is there any way you could give 5-second elaboration on how this applies to Homestuck? I'm very curious, although I'm sure it's like super complicated and convoluted.
Scott, you know, right? When they get the candy powers.
Oh, yeah, okay. I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean,
Where the kids are
yeah.
the kids like are eating this lollipop power thing, and they automatically
Sorry,
feel
so
like
that's called-
super hyper happy about everything, and just like
Oh,
completely ignore
trickster mode. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they go into trickster mode. They're completely happy about everything, and they're just ignoring all their previous problems and not dealing with them. And they're like, "Let's make babies, everyone. Let's just be happy and make babies."
Yeah, except for fucking Dirk, who
Yeah.
got his shit under control.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's a whole different series, but it's just kind of similar in concept, right?
Well, it sounds like a little bit, but like the central problem is that like you need your toxicity to like balance it out. Because like there was one video I was watching, I think it was like maybe a Wisecrack one, where they talked about how like all the stuff that Morty's like sporting out is basically like fucking like empty Tony Robbins platitudes.
Yeah,
Really?
I mean, I don't even think it's that you need your toxins to be a productive and like empathetic human being. It's closer to like these are literally your problems, and just ignoring them or stripping them away from you doesn't make you a better person or more productive or literally anything good. You literally need to work through your own problems. They're still there. They still exist, which again we kind of saw in this weird dissociative bullshit that happened through the entire episode. But in order to really come to terms with and actually improve as a person, Jesus Christ, you actually need to confront that shit and work on it yourself.
But as we saw from previous episodes,
Rick
that
doesn't
seems
do
to be the
that.
direction that-
It's kind of amazing how like Rick and Morty seems to like have like the same sort of like 2 or 3 themes, but it still like manages to make them fresh and interesting. You'd think that it would like I guess in anyone else's hands it would become like an annoying cliche, but yet still we're seeing like so many different sides of like Rick, because I feel like we've gotten like different variations on like ultra toxic Rick as well as like nice Rick, because like technically didn't we get a nice Rick in the last episode, the Whirly Dirly conspiracy, where he's got like the brain inhibitor?
We got a retarded Rick. I mean, like, he was dumbed down to the mind of a child. I mean,
Yeah. And I will say though, did anyone else kind of notice that God, this is gonna sound so fucking weird. Morty is basically like, his interest in Jessica is basically kind of like Oedipal in a kind of way, because Jesus Christ, his dad fell for somebody who was just hyper confident and just disdainful, and Jessica ends up. I'm not sure whether or not she actually was interested or what the fuck was going on, but holy fuck, is he basically just interested in someone who is just kind of only interested in if she is at all because he's so desperately attached to her.
he does sort of have that dynamic, but I don't know, I'm not sure that's the main reason he's attracted to her. It might just be like, he's into redheads.
But Jesus Christ, it's because Dan Harmon is into redheads. Literally everyone attractive on the fucking show has red hair,
Fair.
and it's all Dan Harmon. But like, you're right, it might just be dumb teenager bullshit.
Yeah, because like
Well,
I mean,
while we're talking about the girls, I'd like to bring up the fact that at the very beginning of this episode is Trisha, and Trisha's the same girl that she was the one with the quote stripper titties that stole Ethan from Summer, and she has the best goddamn quotes, like beginning and end of the show. Like the first one is
That was the same girl.
same girl. She says,
Oh,
Are you
I
sure?
want that docking kind of love, like that penis and friction kind of love. Just like warm. And then she ends the episode by saying, "Have you ever been peed on before? Oh my god, yum."
The random girl sex talk and like the fucking Rick and Morty was like was amazing.
I just like that they're bringing her back and they're like giving her a character, even though it's that, and so it's kind of sneaking her into different episodes.
Yeah.
Well, they do that a lot with like side characters, like Bird Person, and then who Tammy. Tammy was Bird Person's like wife, girlfriend, who was like one of Beth's friends.
Yeah,
not Beth.
We saw her was at the party, I think, in season 1.
Even Ethan showed up like in like season 1 or something as well.
Although, you know, it's kind of interesting that, I mean, not that, like, Rick and Morty ever focuses on, like, Morty's high school thing. It's, like, the most least interesting thing. But, like, it does, like, on a stereotypical surface level kind of remind me of, like, the Steve Smith storylines in American Dad. And that fact that he's, like, the sort of derpy, nerdy teenager. And I think he's around the same age as Morty, or is supposed to be.
Interesting.
And on a superficial...
a lot of American Dad, so I can't really...
I'm surprised. They run those fucking reruns on Adult Swim all the time and everywhere else. I mean, American Dad's not terrible. It's kind of middle of the road, but whatchamacallit, you know, the storylines that they use for, like, the Steve Smith character is basically like, oh my god, he's the horny teenager who's never going to get laid, but he wants to, but he's, like, nerdy and derpy, and it feels like on a very basic surface level, kind of like what Morty is, despite the fact that, you know, obviously Rick and Morty does, like, far more with him than... you know,
I was already sick of Family by the time spin-offs came out.
Yeah, but he's like 80% less irritating.
Yeah. But your voice is your most annoying voice, and it's your best quality.
That was such a good line.
I almost wish we'd seen more of the toxic world.
Really? How come? It just seemed like sort of like a generic, or like the real Earth when you know the real Earth becomes toxic, or
just like the literal world inside the fucking canister. I just kind of wanted to like look around and see just what other kinds of horrible shit people left behind.
Of like awful weird aliens.
Yeah, like I was almost disappointed that that we didn't get to spend some time with the woman Morty picked up at the fucking bar while she wandered around. but the end of the episode where she just comes out screaming sea cucumber.
Was that what she was saying? I was having trouble
yes,
like
yes,
safe word.
Yeah.
She
It was a safe word.
Yeah, if they had spent more time in the toxic container, it would have been an opportunity for actually a lot of ranting, where you just basically display every single like thing you hate when people do. You know, a bunch of different aliens doing things like that.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's true.
I have to say though, I am surprised that Toxic Rick was his attachment to Morty. Got the attachment to Morty. That was entertaining.
That didn't quite make as much sense to me.
It did, because like Rick considers that to be a toxic aspect of himself, and the fact that like it limits. And it's interesting how he like, you know, because like, you know, throughout this whole season we've seen like, you know, Rick like kind of like ebbing and flowing between his attachment and affection towards Morty, which we kind of got to see more genuinely once his toxic aspects are removed. But Rick still sees that as like an impediment of him being like the best person he could possibly be.
I mean, that's the little Twilight episode, like, moral of the story here is that, like, how do you define what is toxic, what is good, what is bad? You know, this machine, like, takes the toxins based on how you define toxic. So that's why you end up with, like, such imbalanced people, because, I mean, there's no, like, essential way to say what's good and bad. It's more like you have to, like, set those parameters.
Yeah. I thought that aspect of it was also pretty interesting. Like how different Morty's version of toxic was, and how different Rick's version of toxic was very interesting. Like what they aspire to be is, like, you know, as people, I guess.
Well, it was interesting though that like the toxic aspect of Morty, I thought they would have like used his like anger that we've seen like come up,
Oh my
like
God.
fucking psychotic repressed rage. But I guess at a level Morty isn't even aware of it. He just sees his toxic aspects as his insecurity and timidness.
Yeah,
Although
and I think once he got rid of that, he just didn't have a reason to be angry anymore.
now, so guys, what do you think of American Psycho Morty, who's like
Oh my God.
able to
Favorite part.
woo women?
Best part of it so far. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that like get rid of all your inhibitions and like desire and empathy and all this other good shit. What are you left with? A stockbroker.
There's that, but he's also like a motivational personality. Like he just walks around school like hyping people up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he
Yeah.
gets the stockbroker, like I think stockbroker is like by the time he's full psychopath. But in the beginning, he's very positive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also
still
like
positive. He's really excited about organic fucking carrots.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the.
but he also has like that sort of like, and you know,
Go ahead.
well, the thing that like he's like super excited about is like the sort of like you could tell that like Dan Harmon was like kind of like raging out against like dumb, worthless like self-help platitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
Yeah.
all the empty things that Morty was saying, like I never did my drums because I was afraid of my own limitations. Haha, limitations. That's what holds you back.
Well, I wrote down some of them. They were so good. I downgraded to a clamshell. It's something worth saying. It's worth eye contact.
Oh my God. Yeah, I
Oh
song?
god.
Nope. I just hit shuffle. You know something? We should listen to one random song a day.
It's like it was
I
all the most.
have to say, I've never wanted to slap Morty more. like all of his whiny, insecure, terrified bullshit. He's just like, okay, now I kind of want to hit you.
and that's what it felt like. Where like Dan Harmon was like taking like a soft jab at like the self-help platitudes, like you're only limited by the limitations you set upon yourself. You can do anything. You can shoot to the stars. Go become a tech savant. Basically the sort of like
I don't think it was
self-help.
soft jab. I think he's saying like there is like a hairline between that and being a total psychopath.
He was still a very empathetic psychopath. He's like, he bought 500,000 shares of biotech at 33. Good damn, Morty. And then he has like the redhead life of his dream, and has like a perfectly happy relationship until Rick comes to get him back with his like Voltron bots.
Question: do you think he did that like consciously, just left the cell phone going, or do you think he
Mm-hmm.
do you think he did it by act? Yeah.
Oh, he did it on purpose. That was. He was being a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's probably a desire to like get
you're right.
return.
You have to have this super healthy relationship, but I guess at its core, it's still empty.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally cannot connect with somebody if you're just positive all the fucking time. Like you're just gonna end up with something that either you will leave or just spout empty platitudes until the other person goes away.
And he did do that to kind of like Jessica, to the point where it's like, she wanted to get away. He's like, fine, get away. Life, it doesn't matter. And he moved on to the next person who he could like woo with the empty platitudes.
Yeah.
It was like, I want to be the job. I want to be the HR person. I want to do the best thing is like making you happy.
That was hilarious. That was such a good rant. My God.
I had to watch the episode twice just because, like, the first time I was seeing it, I was kind of like buzzing through Morty's, and I needed to digest it a little bit more cleanly.
Yeah.
Does some really good rants. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I was awestruck by when he first did them all. I was just like, wow, those are things that are really coming out of Morty's mouth right now. Like, that voice actor's like putting in a lot of work to like go like full American Psycho kind of character.
Well, I mean, really developing the characters here. I mean, what's amazing is like there's all these scenarios where you isolate a character and then like change something and see who are they without this or with this. It's like
Yeah.
In this one, they take away the things they hate about themselves, which they call toxic, but really it's just the stuff they don't like about themselves. And then before that, they had a gun that like made Rick unable to think thoughts that were unacceptable, which just made him stupid because any intelligent thought unacceptable to them.
Yeah, I have to say that is one of the really cool things about this show is a lot of your like sci-fi crap stuff that you see is just like always focused on your tech or just like some kind of generic fantasy thing. Like, I'm sorry, Star Wars, fucking Star Wars. it doesn't really actually like dig all that deep. Whereas Rick and Morty is just every time we get something like this, it usually is using the sci-fi fantasy bullshit as an excuse to start digging a little harder at the characters and see what's under there.
Yeah, and it always does a remarkable job because, like, on the surface level, like, if you go back to the pilot of Rick and Morty, they seem like pretty two-dimensional. Oh, Morty's the abused, nervous teenager who's like, oh my god, oh, who's like his little squeaky voice, and his grandpa's just the demented guy, but... we've gotten so many facets. It's amazing how, like, it still tends to be, like, fresh with, like, just taking these sort of, like, high-concept sci-fi, story devices.
Yeah, but that's because he really develops these characters. I mean, they're complex. They seemed like simple archetypes at the very beginning when we started the show. And it's like, okay, you've got a mad genius, and then you've got, like, a passive boy that basically represents most kids on the internet today that, you could, like, say, just don't want to go outside of their comfort zone, really. And he's being dragged outside his comfort zone all the time by his insane genius grandpa.
Yeah.
And these situations, I mean, if anything, it kind of, like, tells you who they really are because it's like, unless you're tested, you don't really know who you are. And so I think, we get to see that Rick is tortured, but he fucking loves the party, and he's selfish, but he does care about a few things, and his not caring about things almost comes from seeing the world and the universe at such a big picture that it's like, okay, how could you not, like, start to go nihilistic or whatever?
Oh yeah,
it's all makes sense, and I think that's the genius of it. And I like whenever they've got random things like, okay, Morty suddenly gets into the purge because he's stored up all his anger from being passive.
Although, just like a little side note about that episode, one of the moments I thought was like hilarious in that like purge episode was like, oh fuck, god damn it.
Did he unplug his
Okay,
headphones?
there we go.
Okay.
Okay, not terrible. When the cat guy is like reading the script to Morty, and it's like, cut to 3 weeks. In media res. Like, I just thought of all the times that like Dan Harmon was like hating upon people trying to get him to like pitch him stuff or read material. Mm-hmm. Just as like 5 minutes of concentrated rage just in that fucking moment.
And that's what sets him off. That's what sets off Morty. Morty kills him, and then
yeah, but that was a good episode in terms of like taking like something that seemed like, oh, it's a purge parody, oh that's okay, and then kind of like taking it to another level, which is why like the Rick and Morty like parody stuff.
No, the fucking like absolute like shitstorm murder of the 1% did it for me. Fuck you. I watch that when I need a pick me up.
with the fucking RoboCop suits. Oh my god.
That's pretty
Feels
fun.
good.
Just watch that on a repeat sometimes when I had a bad day.
I love how in the end of that episode, they have to rebuild society, and basically you realize that, I mean, it's no better. They're just going right back. It's who they are is the problem.
Yeah, at the after credit sequence.
Mm-hmm.
They just like completely revert back to it after they like have the democracy.
We we can't have each other. We can't kill each other all the time. We need to create a special day. Oh, how about like a purge day?
Although one joke that I didn't quite like get, like when the like or like, I mean, it's a minor sight gag, but like when the whatchamacallit, when the Saburo people like go, or the Salad Works people go to eat at Saburo, and then the Saburo people go to eat at the trash. I didn't quite like. I don't know. That visual gag didn't quite work for me.
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, so they're saying Saburo is one step up from trash.
but then the salad people like eat it because that's their toxic selves, to eat like junk food.
And everybody just went one down one level.
But then like, didn't the trash? But who went to the Salad Works? The Saburo people? Because like,
this is in the toxic episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes.
I don't remember who went to the salad place. I just remember Salad went to Saburo and Saburo went to garbage.
Maybe that was enough. So guys, what score would you give this episode? What would you rate it?
Oh God. I really enjoyed this. I'm just gonna give it a 9. I really had a lot of fun with this.
Great. I'm also a 9.
Yeah, I thought it was another really great, strong example, like a seemingly simple concept taken to the best. I'd also give it a 9. I also love the sequence when, like, Toxic Rick and regular Rick are fighting in the house, and, like, Toxic Rick, like, deploys this fucking, like, furry monster creature, and then regular Rick, like, shoots himself into Toxic Rick, and then a little baby comes out, and then a little baby Toxic
I was going to
Rick...
mention that.
Oh, yeah, I guess we completely glossed over that.
That was a great
the fact
fight
that Toxic
sequence.
Rick is apparently all of Rick's fighting instincts.
I just love the fact that, like, in the house they have, like, riddled with sci-fi weapons just in case.
Yeah, I just love the fact that you see, like, Rick put up his hands like a fucking 1800s bare knuckle boxer, and just Toxic Rick just immediately kicks him in the nuts.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
But the technology was so ridiculous. Like, he pulled, I believe, a grenade from a fake plant in the living room, which releases a baby alien that then grows into a monster that he can tell what to do. And then the other Rick pulls a secret handled box hidden beneath the carpet with a dart gun that first you draw your own blood, shoot into your enemy, and then you burst from them like a xenomorph. Like, that is...
It was an endlessly creative sequence, and obviously not the pinnacle of Rick violence, because, like, I feel like maybe Pickle Rick is, like, the pinnacle of that, or... I don't know. I do love the ultra violence in Rick and Morty. It is always, like, nice and gushy, although it was just a really fun, inventive little sequence to, like, break up the episode.
And I love the fact that it's just gotten to the point where they just gloss over all of the weird, horrible shit that goes along with that. Like, the fact that you have to accept that you're probably going to die in order to use this weapon in the first place.
Yeah. you were going to literally be mauled.
That is a weapon you use, like, oh shit, there's nothing else I can do. It's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And so you have to accept the fact that it's not going to be you. It's just going to be this thing that you created and grew that acts and talks and looks exactly like you.
That's just the beauty of Rick and Morty. It just, like, takes those extremes so casually, like, in a random-ass fight sequence. It's just wonderful to watch. All right, there was one thing I had a little bit of a problem with this episode. Remember when Morty said, I upgraded to a clamshell, flip phone?
Yeah.
But then
So he
later
downgraded.
yeah, he downgraded. But then later on in the episode, like, towards the end, he's getting a call from Rick on a smartphone.
Oh, because obviously he became an American psychopath and didn't care about, like, fucking personal connection. Or, he didn't care on personal connection, and he just had the clamshell phone as, like, a degree of, like, I guess virtue signaling or whatever.
But that was so flip-floppy. don't know.
Even in real life, that's what people do. They downgrade for like, oh, I've simplified my life, and then eventually a new phone comes out, and they're like, well, that's a pretty sexy ass phone, I guess.
How
Yeah,
big was the
it's-
time jump too? By the way, I'm just curious. How big
Yeah,
was it?
I don't know.
Clamshell.
That didn't fucking bother me. Morty basically became like a monster, so whatever.
But so I think all of us gave us 9s, but Goro, do we get your score yet?
Not yet, but I was considering like somewhere between 8.5 and 9. Like, there's just like that minor continuity issue that kind of bothered me a little bit. Like, I was wondering. I also forget, like, wasn't there like a little time jump between like after after like Morty said like, oh, I'm not going to join with my toxin, and he became like a stockbroker.
Maybe by like a few weeks, but in the Rick and Morty universe, I don't think it matters. Like the entire thing is ridiculous, and like, but considering all the insane stuff, also like that opening sequence was fucking amazing. I love them. They're just like breaking down after it. I had no control over the situation. I had no idea. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I don't know why I keep on doing this.
They're like crying and screaming. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's pure trauma.
it was almost like I almost want like a revisionist take of like Star Wars, the original one, A New Hope, where like fucking like, you know, Luke Skywalker just like breaks down after receiving the medal.
So many people died.
The adventure they had, there was like only a short clip, but like it looked like there was this war going on between like a giant crab cyborg spaceship monster.
Yeah, it just looked like the high concept Star Wars Independence Day bullshit.
Yeah.
and it was fucking great.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's funny though. Like,
It's a nice
have you guys
little
ever
spoof.
have you guys ever read the Rick and Morty comics?
They're
I
comics.
didn't know there was.
I have not.
I have not either. I just think it's really funny that like they're published by Oni Press, and Oni Press is like the most pretentious, highfalutin, fucking, you know, stick up your butt publisher out there.
I don't know.
And,
Image
like,
is pretty. Image can get pretty hoity-toity, but
they can't. I don't know. Oni Press, like after spending so much time with them in cons and like how like hoity-toity they were, they really got on my nerves. And like the fact that like, you know, it's like we're above doing licensed comics. You know, you can have all your Steven Universe and your Cartoon Network stuff and your Adventure Time, but you know what? We're gonna do the creme de la creme of licensed comics. We're gonna do a Rick and Morty comic.
yeah,
And there's just a part of me that's like, fuck you. You think you're better just because you have a Rick and Morty? You're no better than fucking Boom doing your fucking Cartoon Network comics. Fuck you, Oni Press.
I was gonna say, I was actually really surprised it wasn't Boom.
So it's entirely done by a third party, is what we're saying.
I don't know who writes it. I don't know if they're any good. I just know that they're
Let me
out.
take a look. Let me take a look here.
I mean, obviously, like, with the Rick and Morty setup, you can have a lot of fun just, like, ripping into the comic industry with, like...
Yeah, but is this franchising or is this original content? I want to know.
I don't know if, like, Dan Harmon has any say in it.
Like, I would be totally willing to accept it if, God, who the fuck was it? Rob Schraub did it. Because, like, Scud the Disposable Assassin and Rick and Morty kind of feel like they share a lot of similarities. So I could totally see that happening. Who this?
And
Zach
please,
Gorman.
and-
Let's see here. Written by Zach Gorman.
Not a name that's like, you know... It's been going on for a while, though. It started in 2015. It's been going on since 2000 and current.
See. Yes. See.
Oh, interesting, though. It says the comic features are Rick and Morty from an alternate dimension than their TV counterparts, Dimension C-132, in order to remove worries about continuity with the original show and give more free reign.
Oh, okay.
That's
Sure.
kind of clever.
I'll take it.
Clever way
Yeah,
of getting
but-
around continuity.
Yeah, that's actually like okay. Wait,
Sure.
And in this continuity, it's probably written worse, so they can get away with that too.
I kind of
Yeah.
might feel like the Invader Zim comics, which I guess is still done by Yonan Vasquez, but I don't know. I picked them up. I picked it up the other day. I just wasn't impressed as I was with the original series.
Although it's coming back, right? There's an Invader Zim TV movie because Nick is like doing the worst out of like all the fucking children networks. So they're like, yeah, you didn't hear about that? There's like a big Invader Zim TV movie that's like coming out in like a year or two.
Okay.
Nickelodeon is like mining their nostalgia, so they're bringing. There's actually like a decent Rocco's Modern Life promo, which I was like surprised how subversive it was.
Good.
I was impressed by that. And then there's like a Hey Arnold thing. So Nickelodeon is like mining all their fucking 90s, early 2000s nostalgia to like try and catch up in the arms race they're losing against Disney and fucking Cartoon Network.
They gotta catch up with the 90s nostalgia race.
Yeah, exactly. Which, the Rocco promo I was actually impressed with. I was like, oh, this is actually as good as I remember it. And it felt surprisingly subversive for the network that SpongeBob built. But anyway, we digress as we talk about licensed tie-ins.
All right, so what are we shelling?
I know. What about? Remember those Toxic Avengers toys? Remember the Toxic Avenger?
Oh my god! Yeah, sure.
All right, so let me see. Do we want to do the movie or just the toys?
Oh. How about the toy? It's like more symbolic. You can see how closely they resemble.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I see Toxic Avenger toys. God, I remember when they tried to make that into like a kids' cartoon series. Yeah, there's some Toxic Avenger toys. So, buy the original Toxic superhero. You think Toxic Rick was great? Why not the Lloyd Kaufman official trauma superhero of Toxic fucking Avenger? Go get it, because there was a Toxic Avenger musical. God, that reminds me of a story.
There's a Toxic Avenger musical?
Yes. One minor digression before we end it off, and given the fact that we won't be here next week, and that will be the week after. I was interning for this guy named Roger Paul, who was like a shitty D-list agent, and he represented someone from like American Idol who was like third place or something, and she was in the Toxic Avenger musical, and it was like his greatest achievement of having her on his client roster and having her in the Toxic Avenger musical. And then I had to give her something in the middle of New York, and she gave me a hug. I forget her name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the Toxic Avenger musical?
I think it ran its run and then it went off Broadway and off Broadway, and what happens to all plays that are kind of like cheap franchise grabs. They get their laugh and then they go away forever.
Wow. Man,
Right,
Toxic Avenger was kind of forgettable, wasn't he?
Well, so some people like him as like a cult icon, and like the Lloyd Kaufman movies and the weird TV series that kind of sucked. I remember like watching it as a kid and feeling like, man, I want something better to come on.
Did you ever watch Toxic Avenger or ever see Toxic Avenger, Dan the Garbage Man?
Yeah, I just don't remember very well because it was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
You didn't miss much. You didn't miss much. All right, so thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. This is your only source of Rick and Morty. Well, this isn't your only source, but this is your last and most
desperate hour source.
We are the only source that cites Harmontown and talks about Harmontown. So that means we are more authentic than the billions of other people who are doing Rick and Morty content.
Yeah, who else would have pointed out that continuity error between the smartphone and the flip phone? Who else?
Christ, I don't.
Go dominate the YouTubes, Greg, with your fucking, like, Rick and Morty ruin. And then you have, like, a red dot and a stupid thumbnail pointing out Rick and, Rick with the, fucking clamshell phone. And then Rick with the iPhone. And then you just go into that, and then you get 1 million views, and you dominate the internet. Right, Greg? Isn't that right? Because, like, nobody fucks all that except for you.
Sure. God.
The hardest part is making that thumbnail, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for your time. As always, it was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching. And remember, lobsters and tennis, but don't you grab it.
Manga's made of iron, lobsters made of